Welcome to the Moving Past You radio show, a show about identifying, confronting, and embracing the obstacles that block and delay us in walking in our divine purpose. Each week, we delve into the complexities and rewards of walking in your purpose. Now, here's your host, Juanita Gaynor.
Hello, everyone. It's Friday. And not only is it Friday, it is Friday before Thanksgiving, you know? And to me, if anyone knows me, you know that being the theme of November is what resonates with me the most. I have so much to be thankful for. I have so much to just wrap my arms around people because I know where I was. I know where I could be. I know where I should be in some instances. I ain't gonna say too much on that. So most of you people, you know. I know that as a family, as a crew, as whatever, we are all thankful for so many different things. Um, but it's just the whole joy how it leads into the season. And yes, I believe in, the Christmas and the New Year's and all of that stuff. That is what I believe. And I believe that leading into the holidays, you get to lead into something new. You get to change, you get to refresh, you get to do a lot of good things. And I want to keep it that way, So November is a special time for me. Of course, next month is the birthday, but right now I am in the attitude of gratitude. Now, with that being said, tonight's guest, oh my goodness, we were talking before the show, and it's been 6 months since the last time we spoke. And in speaking with her, she is just a light. And tonight's conversation is just going to be so amazing. And I'm glad you're here and you don't want to miss it. Now, if you're seeing it live, you're going to get that live and in person. But if you're listening to it on the replay or on, your car radio, whenever you're driving down, it is meant to open up your heart and soul to the light, to light. This is all about light, good light, energy light, just to just awaken you. So you're like, who's tonight's guest? Because you're excited. I am. I am excited. I am excited. So let's talk about who our guest is going to be on this evening. Our guest tonight is going to be no other than Miss Colleen Lindberg. And we're going to be talking about moving through trauma to embrace the light. As anyone know, I'm a trauma person. I'm a trauma coach, and that's it. I look to embrace and to identify and to reflect. We got to do all of those things. So we are definitely moving through the light. So who is this person? Let's tell a little bit about her. Let me see. See that beautiful self? No, I expect y'all to read it. No, I don't. Colleen Lindberg is dedicated to breaking down the structures of conformity that hinder personal growth, allowing individuals to embrace their full potential and strength. She envisions each person's mission as a distinctive rhythm capable of creating waves in the world. I need you to reflect on what I just said. I have to reread that. She envisions each person's mission as a distinctive rhythm capable of creating positive waves in the world. Through her programs and teaching, she empowers light warriors to embody their light, embrace their unique capabilities, and resonate their authentic vibration. Colleen is a prominent figure in the revolution of sovereignty, leading alongside others who share the same commitment to personal empowerment. So let me present to some and introduce to others. Hello.
What is going on? I'm so excited to be here too. I was listening and I feel like I'm in the back, behind the curtain, and I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be so juicy. I can't wait to chat."
I know. Um, just your I know when we had talked and just your work and just everything, it drew me because as someone who embraces light, as someone who has started the process of work through my own trauma,
Mhm.
you know, what you do helps so many others see that it's not just one a single faceted way of healing and moving through the world. You've shown so many ways of how, it's more than just that.
Mhm.
And so before we go into any more juicy, like, I'm gonna give you the floor. I want you to tell us a little bit more about you. And I want you to really tell us what led you to this point to really
Mm.
be living in your authentic purpose at this point in time.
Yeah, well, there's so many stories I could tell about, stepping into this pathway and like really aligning in it. But I just, the biggest piece I think I want to share with everyone was that over time, I just kept feeling this pull, this call, this like, I call it the whisper. And I just kept hearing this whisper that just kept dropping into my field that was like, hey, pay attention. Hey, have you considered? And, for a long time, we can call it God, we can call it universal alignment, divinity, our soul's mission, whatever we want to call it. But for a long time, I ignored the whisper, right? I kept doing things in life that were like, more chaotic and more challenging. And then I was like up against these mountains all the time. And I was like, why is life so hard all the time? It's like, because I kept choosing the pathway of hard instead of listening to the whisper dropping into the space. So over the years, I finally understood and I was like, okay, I'm done with this space. I'm going to keep listening and I'm going to trust that where I'm being guided to is going to walk me on the pathway that is necessary and needed for me at this moment of time to serve humanity, to serve my people, to be in the light. And it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And, through that, I've obviously had to deal with my own trauma. I've had to heal ancestral lineage lines. I've had to, have the hard conversations with myself. And I still continue to do that every day because I think every day we're growing and changing and learning. But that's kind of the gist, I would say, as to how I've kind of gotten to this moment of time exactly right here, right now. So
See, that's wonderful. And I'm going to hone into something that you said
yeah.
is I ignored the whisper.
Yeah.
And for most people who know me know that I'm a singer and I'm a little church girl.
Mm,
And it's the thing is like you told me to go left
yeah.
and I chose to go right. And
Yeah.
that resonated so your statement resonated so much with me because so many of us, we don't know how to maybe articulate, maybe those who are not, in the spiritual realm or they've never come up in church or whatever, but they hear this underlying, this whisper, this sound, this spirit is like, okay, that's not the way to go.
Yeah.
And so you help them articulate it fine because it touched because I'm like, I did that many a times.
Oh yeah. I have
I,
so many stories, it's like I wanted to get the t-shirts all the time. It's like, look at how hard it was for me, but I got to the end, and I'm like, how about we like live now with grace and ease and like how about we like get more into joy instead
yes.
of all of this other yeah, you can go there, but it's like when I finally started listening and really leaning in is where the magic started happening in my life. And then I started creating in that and finding other people that were aligned there too, that I could talk, my crazy talk to that understood me. And like, it's really cool to see how it all kind of played out and came together. Yeah.
Right. It's like it's what I call computerese. And
Mm.
I was early in my career, I was a really computer girl. And it
Yeah.
was hard to speak with people who didn't understand what you were talking about. So
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
always felt alone. And
Yeah.
as a girl doing it, it's just like, so when you find your crew, when you find out that you're not alone, that other people speak the same language and other
Yeah.
people really feel, it really helps you elevate and it helps keep you grounded.
Uh-huh.
It
Oh,
helps keep you focused because like things make light together.
yep.
So you make partnership together. And so when we think about trauma, when we think about the things that causes trauma, and I'm just going to preface, I know a lot of people think that trauma is just something that violently happens to somebody,
Yeah.
and that is the end all be all. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to preface that that is not the case.
Mm.
Trauma is multifaceted. Trauma
Yeah.
happens in different ways. Trauma comes from stress. Trauma comes from physical ailments. Trauma just
Mm-hmm.
comes from you trying to make it through the day to day.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that interrupts your actual flow
Yeah.
is trauma. And I want you to kind of, go into a detail or a deep dive of when you think about trauma, how do you define it and how do you help people, more so navigate through it? Because some people just some don't want to talk about it, but how do you work with somebody
Yeah.
or even your own and how and dealing with it?
Yeah, well, like you just said, like trauma shows up in all different ways. When I look back on some aspects of my childhood, you wouldn't have said that this was trauma, but that imprint of that situation, like literally moved me through my whole entire life of not feeling worthy. When my brother was born 15 months after me, so I'm the oldest, and somewhere in the disconnect, and not because it was my parents or because of my brother itself, but somewhere in my awareness, I made up that I wasn't good enough, that my parents only wanted a son. And that vibration went through all of me throughout years until I was 28 years old and met a mentor that was like, hey, this is a thing. And I went, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like why I'm seeking attention and why I'm getting into trouble to get attention, because I felt that there was a disconnect. And like years later, when I confronted my mom about it, to be like, this is what I was working through, she's like, that's not true. And I'm like, I know, but that's what I imagined it to be at that age, right? So trauma shows up in all different ways. And in some of the work that I do is like, we go back to the root of where it was created, because you're not just angry at 55 years old because you're angry today. You've been angry for a long time, like
Yes.
one of my clients, literally from the womb is where it stemmed from. So she got angry in the womb because her father made a comment that she heard in her mother's belly that created a ripple effect all these years later. Like it's just, that's the work that's embedded somewhere. And when we get to the root of that and we go look at it and we move through it and we address it in whatever way that makes sense for each individual, because like we know, everyone's unique, everyone's going through their own stuff, everyone has their own vibration. Then when we step into that, then we're able to address it and see it and feel it and move through and get to the heart of it, to be like, oh my God, I thought it was this, but it wasn't that. That's what I interpreted. And then we're able to move through it. So a lot of the work I do is in the stemming of the energies of these emotions, of these situations. Because sometimes the trauma didn't start, when you think it did at 11, when that happened to you. It started when you were 2 years old, when this happened instead of that. So we go into the root, find the root, go in to do the work, whatever that is for that root, and move it, get it out, pull it out, heal it, so that that person can now shine through that light. Because when we're in distortion, as you know, if we're angry, it's really hard to hold the light when you're angry. Like we got to go
Yeah.
find it, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I'd love for you to ask me some questions. Yeah, go for it, because I know that
Yeah.
you got something going on over there.
Oh my god, because it's something that you just said. Like I've always been a keen person of, even with the clients that I work with,
Yep.
is you have to heal the core. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go to the core. But
Yep.
you just gave me something that's even deeper than I've even thought to go. And so I am a firm believer of it happened with at that point of inception, like whether
Yep.
it's that 5 year old or whatever. But you just took something back deeper that
Mm-hmm.
gave me a pause
Yep.
when you saying like in the womb.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your statement just connected something for me that God had me do some years ago
Yeah.
that I never understood why he did it, but just in that moment I did. I had did a talk about hunted at conception,
Mm.
and I've been talking about I was talking about the fight at conception, like how, the enemy and everything and whatever and things and was trying to take me out then.
Yeah.
And I never connected it to that's probably the whole real root of the actual trauma and
Mm.
just things in life compounded on that trauma
Yeah.
until you just said what you said,
You're welcome.
because that's amazing. But I'm grateful that you said it, because for so many other people
Mm-hmm.
outside of myself, you've been operating in one and then you've operated in the other, and there's been a disconnect and
Mm-hmm.
there's been no one to connect the two parts.
Ah, I have
That
been
is
known to be a bridge.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because, and this is why I feel that it's so important for us to begin to have these conversations
Yeah.
and to really be not only speak about our journeys so that we can help others, but it's that bridge building.
Mhm.
Because for someone else, we've just done two different parts,
Yep.
but we were able to bridge it so that they can have complete
Mhm.
wholeness.
Wholeness, yeah. It's
Oh
showing up a
my
lot.
goodness.
Wholeness for
Yes.
sure. What's interesting is that some people, let's say, have abandonment issues, and as the mother holding the baby, maybe throughout her life, she kept thinking, "I can't do this. There's no way. I'm not going to be able to be a good mom." And we don't realize that's an energy, that's an emotion that's getting embedded into the field, and moms only know what they know, right? We only know what we know in this moment of time, and that's all we know. And it's like we're starting to learn more, we're starting to expand more, we're starting to get more tools and assets and
Mhm.
connect deeper into our divine flow and find out the truth of whatever that is for us, for the universal alignment for all things, right? And we only knew what we knew back then,
Yeah.
right? And now we know what
Yeah.
we know now. So how do we shift our lives now, moving that energy through? So it's the whole thing's so interesting.
Right. And so, what I want to ask you, because this is
Mhm.
going to be permanent a lot. As for myself, I was raised in the church, and I know that in church we were only taught that our religious and dealing with the spirit or whatever was only supposed to be within the confines of religion. If
Mhm.
you used it and operated outside of that, you was going to hell. You
Yep.
was no good,
Yep.
and there's nothing good that can come from you or whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful that I never really listened to that aspect. I decided that I needed my own relationship. But
Yeah.
I want to ask you, how do you navigate through those particular, people that you're working with, their initial I'm not sure about this, because again, that's a trauma. We were told
Yeah.
that you're not supposed to do something, and if you
Yep.
go outside of it, you're going to hell, you're no good, and there's no redemption for you.
Well, it's interesting. So, a couple ways. Right now, if you come into my field, you are being called here. So, when you get to me and you're like, I am being called some way, shape, or form, the post hit you, you got a download that says, I need to contact calling, whatever. Like, you're coming here. You're ready to step into the space, whether you're ready or not. I don't even know if we're ever ready
Right,
to do the work,
right.
because like if we wait till we're ready, then we're never going to do it. I know, but like it's like you're being called and something inside of you is saying yes, so that courage to step in is showing up for us to work together. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, those that don't believe to some degree of the work that I do will not be able to get to me. They won't. There's too much dissonance in the world, where maybe they got to do a bit more work, or they've got to meet someone else that helps them shift something, and then they come into my field of awareness. So that's the clarity there. But a lot of people have this imprint, like you just said, about growing up in religious capacities in all different ways that have taught them certain things about spirituality or about energy or about even like God as well. Like there's, for a long
Mhm.
time in my life, and we talked about this when we first met, like I refused to say God. I was all like, this is the universe, I don't want to connect to God, and God's just the religion over here. Like I was tainted with that energy because I grew up in a Catholic home, that we went to church all the time, and then we didn't go to church anymore. And then I felt like I was tainted then because my mom stopped going to church, and I was like, what about me? Like you're stopped. She's like, I'm finding God in other ways, right? And I was like, and then I was like, I'm anti-God, like that's how I went through in my 20s, anti-God. And now I fluidly speak to God, to universal alignment, to divinity, to my guides, to angels, to all of the things, because I believe they're all in a capacity holding an energy for all of us, that our souls are connected, all of it. Like we're here
Yes.
for reasons. And it's like, if the verbiage irritates somebody in my field, they just won't come here. They just
Yeah.
can't. Like, and so those that are called to the work that I do are coming into the work that I do. And some of them don't know why they're there. And some of them are like, I don't even know, but I'm supposed to say yes. And I go, let's roll, man. Like, let's just go. Yeah. Yeah.
And I am grateful for that statement, because for me, what it confirms that how God works with me is like, when people send it to me, he's like, he protects us
Oh,
so
for
that
sure.
we can operate at our highest call and
Hmm.
still help those that are ready to come to us to do the deep dive work, because there are layers. Let's be honest, there are
Oh,
layers to this work.
lots.
And I'm appreciative to, the work that I do and whatever. But when you're doing when you're doing a session, when you are leading a person, that person's come to you. They're ready, not ready. I like to say that
They're
because
here.
you
They showed
ready,
up.
not ready. Because sometimes when we answer, well, look, I'm gonna say it. If no one else says, when I answer God, when God tells me to move, I'll be like,
Are you
okay,
sure? Like
right.
I look up.
Like,
Are you sure? Like
are you really want me to do that? And this is how I know it. And people
Mhm.
say, well, how do you know it's him? Because it's always something out of my comfort zone. It's
Uh,
always something that makes it's going to stretch me. And it's
yeah,
going to, I know it's going to be more accountability. Let me say that to somebody. When God is home, there's going to be an accountability level to it.
yeah.
And that I know that I have to hold it and revere.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
as he's calling people to that 5-year old is fighting because the 5-year old has been at the helm for all these years. We're 45 now. The 5-year old has been at the helm running amok. Now the 5-year old don't want to come out. They want to like give up the reins or whatever. So as you're working with the client, they've come, they're like, okay, let's do this. Like, what is that step? What do you how are you working through those initial things to get
Mm.
them to a place that they have been, even more open? They're
Yeah.
open when they come to you, but even more open, and are really beginning their healing process. And what does that look like and can look like for someone?
Yeah, well, each person is obviously different depending on the energies we're working within, which you obviously know that too. But it's like the first time we get together is we start to talk about the real stuff. And because I'm guided through the light always, like my connection to God is pure. I do a lot of work on holding that, like you said. And I know that I'm in a vibrational alignment. I can hear things because I talked, like he literally hear things. And I'm like, can you tell me about what happened to you when you were 5? And they'll be like, how did you know? And I'm like, I don't know. Someone just told me, like, and I go right in. Like my package that I do a lot of this work in is 5 sessions. And I purposefully keep it tight because I want to move it through as quickly as possible and get the integration in right away to move it through. That's my style though. That works for me. I potently align in that power, and I work with people that are ready to, they're not ready, but they don't really know what they signed up for most of the time. Like one of my clients yesterday was like, okay, we have a call in half an hour and I don't really know what I actually signed up for. Like, is this just like one-to-one work? Like, what are we doing? Like, and I'm like, just show up, you'll be fine, and then we go into it and I go, what else? Tell me what else? What are you feeling? What's life been like for you lately? What patterns are repeating in your world? And I do almost, by the time the first call's over, I'm like, okay, so you have fear about stepping into this because most likely it happened here. But next session, we're going to go dive into that and go find where the fear is actually lying. But for now, here's the 3 things I need you to do. And like literally, that's how I work. And how I do the process, I don't know how I do the process because it's
Right.
all divinely led. It's all in me that just keeps coming through, and the results keep showing up and people keep moving through energies. And I'm just like, it's working. So I'm just going to trust in what's coming in, and we're just going to keep moving through this to help more people expand. That's really, really it.
And I actually love that, because so many times people be like, okay, we have this path and this way, and it's just so cookie cutter,
Yeah, no.
and it's just not unique. It's not transformative, because at some point everybody gets the same thing.
Yeah.
So I know through your social media and how you're connecting and you're doing, when you have that person, someone would say, well, what makes you different? I know what makes
Mm.
me different. I can answer that. But someone say, well, I'm not asking why should I come to you,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're out there, you're doing what you do. Why do you promote the way you promote? Why do you
Mm.
show up in the world the way you show up in the world? Why should I look how you show up in the world? Why should it be, beneficial to me? Because
Yeah.
I know, and I'm gonna give you the 4, but I know, for example, I'm very transparent in a lot of things,
Yeah.
and that is how I show up. in the world. And so some people are put off by it,
Oh yeah.
but they're eerily drawn to it.
Yeah.
They're eerily drawn to it. Like they won't troll me, but they're watching,
Mhm.
And so
Eye on you.
in your authentic self,
Yeah.
how and showing up, how has that transitioned and just opened doors, not only
Mhm.
for you, but to expand you to others that are seeking what you do? They
Yeah.
just don't know it yet.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I have multiple ways to answer it because, like, you gave me so much in that landscape. So I hope I'm going to do it justice, is what I'm going to say
You
right
will,
now.
you
But
will.
I've, for years, like 14 years ago, Colleen, when she first started her business, wore masks. What do you want me to be? And I will be that for you. And that's how I lived a lot of my life. Like, I will become what you desire me to be. And I will be the best desire that you want and do all the things that you desire, and I will step into that. And over the years, I just, that whisper kept coming back, like, and I kept dismantling and I kept doing the work, and then I started to see like the real Colleen, and I slowly started to own that in the background. And a few years ago, it was like God spoke to me and he was like, it's time. I'm like, for what? Like, what's it time for? For you to actually authentically step into the space. I was like, what do you mean? I show up on YouTube, like at the time, YouTube videos every day. What do you mean? I show up on YouTube, I make posts. No. You're still playing a role. And I'm like, what? Like, we need you to own your rebellion. Okay, I'm a rebel. I dismantle conformity. That's part of my job, meaning nobody's in boxes in my world. Everyone's in their unique vibration. So I'm a rebel. Okay, I also have a very sexual edge and I like to swear. And that is actually who I am. So if you come to my Facebook page or my Instagram later, I have the word F all over my social media because I love speaking in that. Like my post I did today, it's just like the whole mechanism was around that. And I didn't know how to step into that. Last year, in August of last year, I actually went back to Winnipeg before I moved to Costa Rica. I live in Costa Rica, and I went back home and I sat my mom down in May, and I said, Mom, just need you to understand, okay? I'm about to own my sexual edge and some of my branding. And you might get calls from my aunts because they follow me on Facebook. So I just want to make sure I gave you notice in advance. She's like, yeah, you do you. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird response from my mom, right? I'm like, okay, whatever, Mom, right? We're good. So literally the next month, my masterclass launched called Unleashed. And it was a photo of me from behind, just in a lace thong underwear and nothing else. And it was the highest masterclass. Everyone bought it at every price point, the most people I ever had in the whole entire masterclass, because I owned who I really was. Yeah. And it was all about owning your personal power, right? And stepping into that space. Now you will find photos of me that I might be wearing a white dress and some of it's a bit see-through, but I'm owning this energy in my life because it is me. I'm not going on and just being naked online to be naked online. That's not it. There's a power that moves through in the way I communicate, in the messaging coming out for us to own who we are. So every day is the courage to step in to actually show you this is me. And if you can't handle me, or you don't like that my nipples are showing through a dress, then you can unfollow me. And I'm okay with that because this is me. Right. And that's the thing I think that we conform so much to, like, well, what is my, godmother going to say if I actually say the word F online, and I go and step into that. And we're so worried about what other people are going to think instead of owning our uniqueness to find the people that are like, that's my jam. She's my person. I want to discover myself and own who I am. Like, I don't want everyone to be like me. I don't need my clients to go step on and do photo shoots from a waterfall and come out in a white dress, that's see-through. I don't need them to do that unless they desire that, unless that's who they are. My job is to step into my light, to hold a vibration so you can see that light and go, I want to shine brightly as who I am too. And some days it's about pushing a boundary, and some days it's about speaking truth, and some days it's about pushing some lines. Like a couple weeks ago, my mom was like, what's up with you and these nipples? And I was like, Mom, can you just accept the fact that I'm owning my feminine divinity? Like, that's the deal. Close the door, okay? She's probably watching this right now because we're live on my Facebook page, so it's going to be really
perfectly
fun.
fine. Hi, Mom, if you're there.
But that's the thing, is that's the truth that moves through me. And our job is to find that in us and to light it right up. That's what our job is. So yeah.
That is wonderful. That is again with me as well, resonates with me as
Mm.
well, because it's being transparent, it's being who you are. It is, I behind the scenes, I didn't care what people think.
Yeah.
But now in front of the scenes, I really don't care what people think. And it's just like, just even when doing the show, when God said, open it up. And I tell everyone, every person that has been invited and we're speaking one another right now, that is
Yeah.
a God choice.
Yeah.
He's like, that's your person. That's who
Yeah.
you want to do this, because he knows all things.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does. And I'm loving him for it. So, and then leaning into your own personal divinity.
Yeah.
Let's think about COVID.
Yeah.
COVID hit, COVID came, and especially at the height of it, it I feel triggered a lot of people to do
Mhm.
some real work,
Yeah.
because they had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know, how did COVID not only, help, not only to help others, how did it help you really begin to just tune in and start listening before you listened, but really started to see, because we've listened before we listened.
Oh, for
We've
sure.
listened before.
Yeah.
We've listened before we listened, but
Yeah.
how did it help you, begin to really start being in tune? And I know you was probably hearing God on a consistent, more consistent basis. And how was it help? How did you navigate through, the height of the pandemic, and
Hmm.
your growth in what you were doing?
Yeah, so a couple things. Like I did the typical for a few months at the beginning. I completely checked out. Like I was in love with alcohol at the time, and I went to the store every day and drank my bottles of wine and sat on my couch and watched Netflix for a good month at least, and then finally I kind of woke up and I was like, all right, it's time to get over this. Like we got some work to do in the world, and it was like some people moved through this easily where they were like, I could hear myself. They started practicing, working out and walking every day, or talking to their kids, or actually building their relationship with their significant others. And we use the time that way. So for me, what happened was I was a business coach consultant before COVID hit. All my clients shut down, all my revenue streams shut down, because I did a lot of brick and mortar business work and nobody was open, right? So now I have no money streams coming in. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience to be in, because God kept saying to me, so we're ready for you now. I was like, what do you mean? Like I'm like having these, like, what are you, because I always talk through my right. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I do business, I do pragmatic stuff, I do strategies, growth strategies, franchising companies, leadership development. That's my jam. This is what I'm doing. And they're like, no, you're real work. And I was like, what do you mean real work? Now, I am spiritually based. And for a long time, I took all these spiritual courses for fun, like mediumship, animal communication, past life regression, Akashic records work, all these soul things, right? And I did it for fun. And they're like, we need you to combine all of this work into the strategy business work and help people really align with their soul's mission on earth. And I was like, how am I supposed to do this? I'm like, what do you mean? Like I'm supposed to make this work? And I kept having this battling conversation with God, with my guides, with my higher self, like all of the people that were here going, this is the time. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I kept resisting. Then I launched an online course for pivoting your business that nobody bought. And I was like, maybe there's something in this. Maybe I need to start to listen, right? So I started to have conversations outside of social media. I was in the spiritual closet for a long time, didn't promote it. And I started getting calls from people, and they're like, so I heard you do this like soul mission work and you help people align in their Akashic records. I was like, did God text you? Like, how do you know this? And who, cause it was almost, I couldn't ignore the call anymore. Like they just started coming in. And then I finally was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this. So what happened for me in COVID was the pivotal moment of me actually stepping in and listening and embodying what I'm meant to do. Then I battled against it in 2021. And, I kind of was half in, half out. And in December of 2021, I couldn't ignore it any longer. And I just went, fine. Okay, fine. I'll be all in 2022. I will step into the space. I will listen every day. I will surrender in, and I will take action. And I did. And then my whole brand changed. The way I do work changes. The results people are getting changes. And I am now known as like an activator for spiritual gifts and soul mission alignment and all the work I do. And some people are like, that's way out there. I'm like, yeah, I travel to all the planets all the time, like I'm just that girl, so I'm like, and that's the work. And it comes in random spurts, in random things all the time, which are never random because I'm actually aligned in what I'm meant to do on earth. And I meet cool people and I just am now. Like I don't have to become anything. I just am. And it's really kind of fun to be here. So
That's wonderful. I love how you say you was in the spiritual closet because I think so many of us are,
Oh.
and it's like we're not going to do it. And then, like you say, God brings somebody, you'd be like, but how? Like, he does. I think he just be. I think what happens is like I'm gonna do this. Okay, so this is your phone, and then all of a sudden, an ad will come up
Oh yeah.
or something. And that's what happened with me. Like I
Mm.
was doing something, and like as I was, leaning more into, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do just mindset and success mindset. And he was like, nah, I need you to get back into that trauma coaching. That's what you
Yeah.
need. And of course, I'm leading, and all of a sudden, it's this big old ad
Yeah.
and about some training and checklist and things. And I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Mm.
So we playing now, and I love how you have the conversations with God, and I think that's what we're so people are so scared of because
Yeah.
like you understand, like I talk to him just like I'm talking to someone else, like, hey player, what's going on? Why are you doing this right now? Like, why are we going through this? And I think because a lot of people have spiritual trauma and are spiritually in the closet, they think like I'm not supposed to do this,
Yeah.
want to. And I love the work that you're doing because I think if many people really look back, just not only historically, but to our roots,
Yeah.
this is where our roots come from.
Mm-hmm.
All of our ancestors, whatever you think about it, were aligned
Mm-hmm.
with spiritual work.
Yeah.
Everything they did was aligned with the earth and the universe and the spiritual being. They didn't call it God then. They whatever they called it, that's fine. But
Yeah.
they, were also aligned and they moved accordingly. And so how does it feel to, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying this, to be aligned with just the original, the origin,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really where we are as Mother Earth.
Yeah.
You go into other, and I know you've traveled extensively,
Mm-hmm.
compared to, and I'm gonna pose this question, compared to the US,
Yep.
how is it different, like when you've traveled into and maybe done some work with those in the US versus those on an international basis? How does usually that shift happens? Because I know internationally, and
Yeah.
y'all can come at me if you want to, I don't care, I'm gonna say it. I know internationally many cultures are more open to
Yeah.
walking and dealing in the spiritual because that is what they believe. They
Yep.
don't, they're open to it, they do it, they walk in it. They may not fully understand where it leads them to and healing trauma and getting
Yeah.
them, open them to their purpose, but they actually operate in
Yep.
that spiritual being. Like, what has been your experience,
Mm.
traveling internationally and all over the world? Because you are international, but when it
Yeah.
comes to us,
It's
what I
like,
call us
I can even bring it. Yeah. I can bring it back to like the simplest form, like I live in Costa Rica now. I'm Canadian and North America has this mechanism that runs through its field of like doing. If you are doing more things, then you are a good person. Meaning you're doing the 9 to 5, you're doing all the extracurricular activities, your kids are in all the things, you're never seeing your husbands, you're moving the pallet, but you're doing good, like that's what the energy is. And I moved to Costa Rica and it's like, we call it pure vita, Tico time. It's like everything slows down. Like if you are talking to a worker on your property, he stops his work to talk to you and to look you in the eyes and to be present in this relationship. Like you can barely get, people off their phones in North America to take a moment to look at you. Never mind having a conversation that's deeply rooted. Don't mind the power going out. That's deeply rooted in this landscape of energy, right? So it's like there's such differences all over the world. I just came back from Guatemala. I literally was in Guatemala last weekend doing a 3-day hike with some friends, and the connection to the earth, like sleeping in a soccer field in the middle of a small town in Guatemala, watching the active volcano go off was day one's nightscape. Like that's what we were watching and connecting into, where you didn't have cell data because you couldn't get it in the mountains where you were. You lit a fire in order to cook your food. You didn't have a bathroom. Like I was literally camping in the mountains in Guatemala last weekend. And I'm remembering the nature of what it is to reclaim and reconnect back into the purity of this. Our ancestors did it all the time, and then yes, technology is an amazing thing because we wouldn't be here right now speaking on technology if it wasn't here. But I feel like a lot of people have lost this connection to actually the truth of who they are, to nature, to that landscape, to each other, So when people from North America come into my field, I work to dismantle that first and get them back into the purity of this light, where other people in other parts of the world, they take naps at 2 p.m. Like go to bed for an hour every single day because that's what they do. Like you think about Greece and those countries in Europe, like they have siesta times, like they go for naps, they shut down their businesses. They know what's important, and it's like remembering that. That's the real key word is remembering, right? And really tapping into that. If you are running and running and running every single day of your life, something is disconnected. Most likely it's your connection to you that's disconnected and your connection to divine. And those are the two most powerful things that you can hold, is those two connections. And when those are set and those are in place, then everything else gets easier. Your connection to others, your connection to your kids, your work in the world, your impact, and all those other things. So yeah.
That is amazing, because you're absolutely right, because sometimes it's just, my dad was born and raised in Barcelona, and so I remember siesta as a kid. Like I know there's certain times of the month you don't travel. I know some friends wanted to go to Spain for sometime in August, and I'm like, yeah, but the businesses are going to be shut down because they're on vacation. They're like, what? Yeah,
October here. Half the restaurants are closed because they're doing renos. They're giving their team time off because we're about to hit high season again, right? So yeah, this is a thing. Yeah.
And they take the time and they allow people to, kids to come home from school and actually have lunch with family. And then they relax time and downtime. And then you get back into the hustle and bustle of things. And so I see that in North America, that needs to be that revolution. It looks like with COVID, they kind of got back, into it. But then again, technology just made everybody kind of have the same rat race again.
Yes.
And you're right. Like, I'm gonna be honest, even though I don't always like people, I'm an introvert by nature, and too many people just
too, actually.
There is a connection that is missing at some point in time. I do feel that sometimes we do need to have an in-person session, or we need to do certain things. And I feel that sometimes you just can't connect via a computer screen. You have to connect in person, because I can pretend I'm okay on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when you sit next to somebody or across from someone, you can feel that energy. And they may say, yes, I'm fine. But then what you're feeling is like, yeah, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not fine. And just your take on that as we're wrapping up. Do you feel that people are trying to navigate away more from in-person connection because as we've grown and more of us have come to light, are they afraid that they can no longer keep up their facade of being okay because they're going to be called out on it in a good way? But how do you feel about that? How is that you see that happening and transitioning?
Well, I think there's like multiple ways that we could answer that question, but yeah, if you're working with someone like me, I can read you on a text message and I know what's going on. I can ping, like you're pinging into me, and I send messages to people all the time. I'm like, hey, just checking in. They're like, how did you know? And I'm like, I just listened. Like God's like, hey, it's time to send that text. So I was like, okay, just making sure you're okay. What's up? So I am very, very connected deeply into the work I do, into who I am, into the energy of it all. But I think there's twofold. If we can get people away from each other, then we create separation and distortion and confusion and conflict in the world. So that's, I think, a mechanism of what we'll call the shadow dynamic of the earth experience, is that if we can pull people apart, then we can keep them apart. Therefore, they're not creating an energy together. When you put two common people in a room, they create, and then they bring in more people to create more. And the more people that are in their light moving through impact, the more impact and light is happening in the world. So I think that there's two things happening. There's an overall arching agenda of separation that's trying to move through the collective. Some people are buying into it, and that's why they're shying away from it, because they're caught under that energy. Where there's others that are like, let's get to, like, I'm hosting my first live circle here in Costa Rica tomorrow, and I have not done this work live. It's always been online, right? Remember, through COVID,
Right.
I kind of came out and was like, hey, here I am, guess I'm doing this work. And it's going to be impactful for those that get to sit in the room, because I'm like, oh my God, like, there's no screen here. There's no, like, I'm going off
Wow.
camera. It's like everyone's showing up, and here I am right here showing up too. But you put 6 people in a room together, then that energy moves through those 6 people. These retreats people are going on, and collaboration and joining communities, and, even church functions. Like on Sunday afternoon, everyone gets together, the families unite, and they're here for each other, and they start to support.
Right.
We create a movement. We can still do this online to some degree, but the intention has to be set. How are we showing up in the purity? How are we here to serve in this collective of energy? So, like, I multiple answered that question to some degree,
Right.
but I hope I got to where you wanted me to go.
No, you absolutely did get to where we want to go, because I think that's the key thing is like we have to be intentional when
Mm-hmm.
we're doing our, our get-togethers. Because I
Yeah.
think that's where what's lost, the intentionality of
Yeah.
our get-togethers. It's like, oh, we'll just get together to get together, and not
Yeah.
understanding that we have to be collective, come together as a collective to,
Yeah.
work through these traumas, work through these hurts, and uplift others so that they know it's a safe space. So I appreciate that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Oh my God, I can't believe we're almost wrapping up. Like we may have to do a part two. Like we
Girl,
may
I'm
we
all
may
in.
have to do a part two, because this is so transformational for people who may have thought like, this is impossible. Like I don't
Mm,
know anybody who's really doing it. And I'm grateful that you are. I'm grateful that not only you're doing it, but you're doing it with such an open heart and an open mind and spirit, and are willing to be that vessel, for God to work through. And yes, people, I said God, and you already know that I say God on my station. So
yeah, that's why I'm saying God a lot. So, like, because I know that's because you talk to God, So for other people, it may be other things, but we
for
honor
other
all of it.
people, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
For other people, I'm gonna be honest. I'm
Yeah.
an inclusive being. I don't want to cause you trigger. I don't want to cause you harm.
Mhm.
But I call him God.
Yeah. It's
And
perfect.
he doesn't make a mistake with me.
No.
Just like your person doesn't make a mistake with you.
Yeah.
You know. So I know you have some great things coming up. So what I want you to do is tell me what are the things that you got coming up soon, and how people can reach out to you, connect with you, because
Mhm.
again, I want those who are willing and those who are ready to just experience you. Like
Yeah.
I wish I had the time. I'm like, shoot, like I am so busy. I need to go to Costa Rica and have a
Come on
one-on-one.
down.
So, we may have to make a trip because again, light, attracts light. And
Yeah.
so again, what you
Yeah.
do is just so amazing. But I want to hear what you got going on and how can people best connect with you. Okay, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, I, like we were talking about before we hit record, Instagram is my playground. Like that's where I show up all the time. And I always have multiple ways to play with me, meaning like sometimes I have live programs happening, sometimes I have master classes happening. But if you're really looking to like expand your spiritual like evolution, or you're looking to really step in to a space of like understanding this more, or like being around other people that are doing the same thing, I just recently launched what I call the Collective, which is a membership based community and it has all these juicy things in it, and people can come in and meet other people that are doing the same kind of work and get together. And I do trainings and teachings and meditations and all that kind of stuff. So I'll send you over the link, and if people are inclined or they have questions, they can reach out to me that way. But I also said, like, I would offer your audience a free training that I did on surrendering. And this can be used in any way. So whether you're really religious and you go to church and you believe in God that form, or if you're spiritual and you believe in God in that form, or if you believe in universal alignment or whatever, it doesn't even matter. But the energy of surrendering, of us trusting in our higher purpose and our higher self, is one of the keys that we're here to learn as a collective on this earth experience. And it's one of the hardest things that we're here to learn. So I have a free training that I did on it that also brings us through like a surrendering activation to help you surrender deeper. And I'll send you over the link, Juanita, so that you can like share it out to people and like, you know, get it in. Whoever wants it can take it and run and have an amazing time in it. But I would love to know, like, if you felt something from this or something's pinged in you. Like, I love talking in my DMs. I love it when people message me. I want to know, like, write a comment on this post and we'll take a look, or, you know, step into that space with us. Like, we'll go there. And this is streaming on my YouTube channel too, which I actively am there. So I knew you had the link. You guys can find me on YouTube as well. You're so organized. I love that about you.
Well, I'm grateful. I love it because, again, like, we're definitely going to get the links. I'll definitely be sharing them. You'll see them. You'll go to the main website and you'll be able to, you know, see this video, the audio, be able to connect with Colleen. If you can't get her there, you can always reach out to me and we'll definitely make the connection, because this is something you want to experience this.
Mhm.
You know, you want to experience it, because once you do, you can't go back. You can't go back to the status quo. You can't go back to doing things the way that you used to do. You just
Yeah.
can't. And if you do, I mean, I'm gonna question you if you do. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna question you.
You can never
But
go back though. Like, I've tried, you know, I've tried to be ignorant some days and pretend like I don't know. I can't. Like, it's just like, no, sorry. You know, let's just stop pretending. Yeah.
because this is what God does.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think you're doing? And you're like, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, and I want people to understand that God, your higher power, talks to you the way he needs to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we can help people understand that, how I have my conversation with him, how
Yeah.
you have your conversation, is not the same how they would have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, with you, with the one with them, he may have to be super soft and super, you know, guiding, whatever. Me, he's like, okay, get up and do it, because you just being hard headed.
Yeah.
And that's when we have those conversations, because I'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, because I like
What's
the
up?
other day I was like, hey player, what is going on? Why are we having, why are you doing me like this? And you know, friends say to me, they was like, you really talk to God like that? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, because he knows me. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
it's like each of your children, you have a unique relationship with each of your children, everyone you know. How you talk to one friend is not how you necessarily talk to another. You
Yeah.
know, again, individuality. So he knows us. He knows he has to knock me over the head a few times to
Yeah.
do what he wants me to do. You
Yeah,
know.
each one of us has our pathway, right? So we speak in certain ways and we tap in certain ways, and everyone's unique. And that's the one thing I really want everyone to feel. You are unique. And the way you do life is your way of doing life. And the more you own it and the more you step into it, the more life becomes juicy, beautiful, aligned, joyful. It doesn't mean we don't go through our challenges, because we're on earth and that's why we're here to experience. But it just means it gets a little bit easier. Say,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Colleen, I want to thank you for just taking the time out, you know, being so patient, you know, with everything and whatever. Like, again, this was a perfect aligning conversation, as with, again, we're in the month of November. It's all about sometimes Thanksgiving, and so many people have such a hard time
Mm.
dealing with the month of thing. You know, something traumatic has happened. They don't understand that, you know, really healing that inner person and walking into their light helps them be, you know, a light for someone else. And then of course the holidays can be triggering. So
Yeah.
I feel that this conversation was just right and point on time, especially since the chow down day, I think, is next week. I don't even be remembering anymore. It just rolls up. I'm like,
Chow down. Technically, we don't have a chow down date here in Costa Rica. They don't do Thanksgiving. But I'm sure like we celebrated the Day of the Dead, which was an interesting, other
yeah,
type of
I get
energy,
it.
right?
North
It's all
side,
different.
yes. Yes, I know exactly. I know that well.
Yeah.
But again, like it's just a month. I consider it as a month of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's a month of giving thanks. It's a
Mhm.
month of sitting back and reflecting on, the overall purpose, as you lead into the quote unquote new year.
Yeah.
Um, for
Love
me,
it.
my new year is my birthday. So always.
Yay.
So
So
that's
fun.
coming up. But,
Hmm.
you know, um, again, I want to just thank you. I want to thank you with all my heart for being here on this evening. And guys, yes, we're going to have her back soon. Who knows? I may have to do a live one and we may have to stream from there or figure it out. But we may have to do something. I don't know. My mind is working. We'll figure between me and you, we will figure it out,
We will.
because we have to, show the world more of what it is to work collaboratively and
Mm,
work together to heal trauma. I think so many times they think it has to be separated.
mm-mm.
And like I said earlier, a statement you made literally
Hmm.
bridged one thought process to another thought process. And I can see things a lot clearer now
Yeah.
on why it was done. So I want others to experience that, knowing that the work that they're doing pre, during, and before, there's someone that's going to be that bridge to connect it through so they can see the parts all together.
Yeah. So powerful. Yeah. And just really grateful that you created this infrastructure and that you're holding space this way and that I could be here on episode 12, to step into this and just be connected. So I'm really grateful for that too.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, guys, if you were not truly blessed by that, I don't know what to tell you. Again, if you need to reach Colleen, you can see her Instagram, and it's her handle is the Colleen Lindberg, and that's TheColleen Lindberg. Those were those I'll be listening afterwards. Still just be listening. And if you are on YouTube, you can find her on YouTube, and it's at Colleen Lindberg. Again, if you come onto our website, movingpastyou.com, you'll be able to see how to connect with her, bio, episode, and all of the goodies that she is sending for you guys. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out and the space to allow us into your homes one more evening. Now, next week we're off because it is Thanksgiving, and I want you to take the time, whether it's to spend with family, whether it's your born family, whether it's your friend family, whatever it is, take the time and spend time with people that is helping you align your energy for you to walk into your purpose. I love you guys very, very much. Thank you. Be blessed. And I will see you the first Friday in December. Yes, December. December, guys. But that's okay. December is my birthday month. So we're going to celebrate. Don't know how we're going to celebrate it all yet, but I'll figure it out. Have a wonderful evening. Be blessed. I love you guys, and we will see you next month.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Moving Past You radio show. Make sure to visit our website at www.movingpastyou.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes. If you found value in the show, rate us on iTunes or simply tell a friend about the show. And be sure to tune in next Friday for our next episode. And remember to always be kind in your word, your thought, and in your deed. Be blessed.